Yeah, I'll always be a metalhead. Nothing can take that away from me.
Right.
I mean, not jail, not people, not religion, not anything. I'll always be a metalhead. Metalhead leaves you all alive.
You're listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Welcome back to the Great Metal Debate Podcast, coming to you today with another metal album review. This time we have new music from U.S. West Coast power metal crew Niviane, their third full-length album titled Queen of Phantoms from Rock Shots Records. Before I jump in, a reminder to like, subscribe, and share all our content on iTunes, YouTube, and SoundCloud, and join in the metal debate by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. For this review, I'll start with a summary, then run through some tracks of particular interest, and conclude with some additional general thoughts about the release. Let's get into it. Niviane are a U.S.-based power metal band that provides a stimulating blend of traditional heavy metal, modern European power metal, and some modern melodic metal influences. Depending on which of these influences resonates most with you, will likely impact which elements of this album appeal to you and what parts may be found wanting. For myself, the musicianship on Queen of Phantoms was stellar, the production good, and the songwriting demonstrating strong effort, albeit in my opinion the final output could have been improved in places. The pacing is energetic and varied, but there were instances I didn't think songs flowed as well as they could have, and the melodies were at times hit or miss. The balance between rock, rasping, and harsh singing was about right, and I thought vocalist Norman Skinner brought an astonishing amount of power and energy to his performance, even though stylistically his approach isn't always my cup of tea. This is an album that 16-year-old me from back in the 80s might have hailed as the greatest thing ever. My more weathered self in 2025 likes it, but with a much more subdued response. Queen of Phantoms kicks things off fast by diving right into the title track, a song that definitely appeals to that teenager in me who idolized Judas Priest, Forbidden, Queensryche, and others of their ilk from a century now gone. To be clear, this style still has an effect on me, perhaps providing a tinge of nostalgia, but my tastes have matured with age and with the unbelievable amalgam of music that has evolved since that time. But there's nothing not to like here, a winning album opener that will have the listener eager to hear more. Next up is Legions, a more mid-tempo number with a great ominous atmospheric intro. However, the call and responsive lyrical delivery I found to be a tad clunky and detracted from the overall song flow. I get that they were going for an anthemic and epic vibe, which I don't generally mind. It just seemed somewhat disjointed in a way that diminished what was otherwise coming across as great energy. One for me where the whole was just less than the sum of the individual parts. Jumping ahead a bit is a track I really like, Beacon in the Darkness. The versing here is chaotic yet still builds effectively, but that chorus and underlying melody is pretty perfect. Not sure I could even make out all the words singer Norman Skinner is saying there. Still, great clarity in sound and effect, even if not in enunciation. There's a tension here between the melodic elements, heavy rocking, and quasi-thrashiness that I find really interesting, albeit the melody is what most appeals to me. Moving forward again in the listing, we find Event Horizon. One of the more linear developing tracks, I also thought this approach made it one of the best. Just a clear building of the percussion and indeed all the instrumentation that worked to perfection with Skinner's voicing. Not a song that will dazzle with twists and turns, but an incredibly effective execution in total. The final album track, Black Wing, starts with a nice muddled guitar sound before kinking into mid-paced thumping and coarse vocal versing. The underlying keys are spot on, but the general structure makes it a little hard to follow the melody throughout. Not a bad song at all, but one that I think could have used a rework to bring out its full potential. Looking back at all the tracks from the entire release as a whole, I truly respect Niviane for their ability to take the admittedly limited parameters of traditional power and classic metal and run with it about as far as one can without straying too far into other subgenres. There's a working class vibe to this entire effort and a humility to the album that is commendable. Beyond that, there are some fun ideas here and definitely a charm and appeal to their method with the songs. The tempo and other variations in a track like Tomorrow's a New Day keep it from being locked into a strict category like the groovy song or the brutal track, and there's something to keeping the listener surprised by compositional twists and turns. Yet at the end, I'm left here, as with on several tracks, feeling the whole song didn't completely coalesce. Compositional concerns aside, the performances are all solid. Skinner's voice is super strong, and you can feel the passion in his delivery throughout Queen of Phantoms. Sometimes that delivery is deadly, like on Aramai's, although on other songs, a few of his falsetto attempts fell short. But he's clearly a super talented singer, which made me wish I could have been in the production booth during the recording process to at times point him in a different direction. Guitarists Tarpley and Miner, to their credit, are really creative with their riffs, and that work throughout made a big difference to the success of individual tracks, although I did wish they were sometimes a bit more creative and playful with their lead breaks. I will say that the guitar mix was absolutely ideal, loud and visible, yet it never seemed to overshadow the vocals, drums, or backing orchestration. Overall, this is one I enjoyed, but it's unlikely to make my top albums list at the end of the year. I'm giving Niviane's Queen of Phantoms a 7 out of 10. There were a lot of positives, just not enough freshness or innovation to my ears for it to ascend to that upper album echelon. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm keeping this one on my playlist rotation, and I'd go see them play live in a heartbeat if they were to have a gig within a day's drive. Be sure to support Niviane by purchasing Queen of Phantoms via RockShots Records, and follow the band on social media to stay up to date on tour dates in support of the new album.